Well, hello. I hope you're having a good Wednesday today. My name is Paul Fowler, our Lake Forest campus pastor. I'm glad to be sharing the devotionals with you all today. This week we've been looking at Daniel chapter 4 and 5, and we've been talking about how God is the Most High God. Monday we talked about how God is the Most High God and He gives power to who He wishes. He's still sovereign, even though it looks like the world's problems are too much. And then we talked about how God is the Most High God when it comes to our problems, how we need to gain that perspective, kind of flip the canvas as we talked about, so we can understand that as we zoom out, God is still in charge, that He is the Most High with our problems, and one day it will make sense. Today we're going to again be talking about how God is the Most High. If you've ever read the histories by Herodotus, I'm assuming most of us have not. It's terribly boring. I don't even recommend it. But if you read the histories by Herodotus, he's a Greek writer writing in about 400 BC. He talks about what we see in Daniel chapter 4 and 5, where we see that the Persians are going to be taking over the kingdom from the Babylonians, King Belshazzar in chapter 5. And what's so fascinating when you read the story of the histories is how it lines up with the biblical account. Kind of a secular history and a biblical narrative that kind of come together so that we can see there's truth and validity in what we're reading today. Just to kind of summarize the story of what's happening in the histories from Herodotus, since I'm assuming you haven't read it, is Herodotus talks about how at the time the Babylonians were the most powerful, but the Persians were slowly moving in on the territory, taking more and more land from the Babylonians. So the Babylonians, in some sense, kind of said, hey, we know that Babylon is the strongest city. We have walls of stone. We have gates of iron. We have strong wood timbers. We're covered. We're fine. We're safe. And so when we read in the book of Daniel chapter 5, we see that they're having this giant party in Babylon. Belshazzar has invited everybody there. In some sense, they know that they need to stockpile goods and have a huge celebration because the Persians are coming, as Herodotus is saying. So Babylon was an incredible and impressive city. It's modern-day Iraq, if it was even safe to visit it at any time. But the Euphrates River run through the city of Babylon. So Babylon was impenetrable, but if you could find a way to get into the waterways, maybe you could get in. The problem was that the water was too high and it ran too fast, so you would drown before you'd find a way into the city. But what we read in the histories by Herodotus is that Cyrus has a great idea. He goes upstream. He moves the water into a marsh, and he has men prepared that once the water gets low enough, they can sneak into the city and that they can overthrow Babylon. And it actually worked, and Babylon was thrown over in one night. But what we read in Daniel chapter 5 is this incredible story that somehow Babylon falls in one night. How is that possible? The histories say by Herodotus that the Babylonians didn't even know what was happening. Well, we know what happens in Daniel chapter 5. There's this story of this giant hand showing up and writing these words on the wall. But what's so fascinating at the celebration, where they're drinking to these great things, you realize that they're trusting in their things. They're trusting in their stone walls. They're trusting in their iron gate, their strong wood timbers. Look at Daniel chapter 5, verse 23, and we see this. This is Daniel speaking to Belshazzar. You praise the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which cannot see or hear or understand. But you did not honor the God who holds in his hands your life and all your ways. You see, Belshazzar was trusting in things. When things got difficult, unlike his father Nebuchadnezzar, who viewed God as the Most High God, he viewed his things as the most important things. And Babylon was a strong city. It was incredible how Cyrus was able to figure this out. But this was all part of God's plan. I think for us, as we think about our stuff and our things that we have, it's kind of easy to trust in them. That when problems come, our health will help us overcome the issues. That when problems come, our money will help us overcome things. Our family, our relationships, our home, our job, whatever it may be, it's easy to be like Belshazzar and trust in our things, not realizing that within a very night, God can change everything in our lives. We have to come to a place where we don't trust in our stuff, but that we trust in God, that He is the Most High God over all things. I encourage you to take some time today and pray and think through, what is the things that I trust in over the Most High God, who's sovereign over all the earth, who is with me in my problems and my trials and my difficulties? Are you putting your trust in Him or your things? I hope you get time to look at that today.